Alright, guys. It is cold. I think we hit the 30s last night. Jerusalem had snow. Not much, just a dusting. I doubt it lasted more than a few minutes. I don't think it stuck. From my days in New York, for snow to really stick, you need to be down about 25 degrees. It might have been 30 degrees or something like that. I don't know. But I don't think it may have lasted a few hours or something, but no big deal. I was just outside and unexpectedly it started raining, but it was a light rain. Unpredicted. It was they're forecasting a sunny day today. I don't understand. Well, then no, it does. In the afternoon we get sun. The late afternoon, like about 3 to 5, we get sun, and sunset now is at 5:31. So the days in Israel never get very long. Like in New York, we would, the long days, which I think were June, latter part of June, early July, you would get darkness at 9:30 or so. We'd easily be able to play basketball, at 8 o'clock, 8:30 even. You don't get that here. You get 7:30, maybe the very long days you're pushing 8 o'clock. That's it. If you go up, to like England or something like that, or North England or North UK, the long days you could, if you drop a dime on the sidewalk at 11:30 at night, you can pick it up without artificial light. So we were at 37 for the low, or we will be tonight. Tomorrow 35. Then we start climbing. It's cold today and tomorrow. And then Wednesday we get up into the 61, but a low of 39. Then Thursday we hit 64, Friday 66, then 64, 67, and then Monday next week, a week from today, we're in the 70s. And Tuesday we hit 73, but the lows are still going to be like 49 or 50. So, but that's weird. Like if you hit 73 during the day, you go down to 49. I would think that you're not going to feel it in the house because your house kind of warmed up. We open up the windows when it's like 70, so you get the warmer air in the house during the warm of the day, like maybe at noon till about 3:30, 4 o'clock. It tends to warm the house up a little bit, but So what we got here is more or less you could call a perfect storm brewing. And it's a lot of details and moving parts, so I'll do it in the main, after I finish the introduction, in a minute or 2 or 3 or whatever. The war with Gaza could start up any second, okay? We infuriated the Muslims up in Lebanon that favor Hezbollah yesterday when they had the funeral for Nasrallah. We were flying planes overhead during the funeral, that those planes were the same planes, 4 of them, that were used to bomb Nasrallah and kill him. And, the Hamas and Gaza are in shock. We held back 600 and something prisoners in the exchange after they released ours. So their trust in us is gone. Witkoff was saying he's going to come over here. We're going to have a phase 2. Now he changed. I'm coming over there. We're going to see if we could extend phase 1. I'm not sure if Hamas will go for it. I would say 75% no. They don't give a hoot about their terrorists in jail. Those are martyrs, Nobody's going to kill them. They're just going to stay in jail. So what's going to happen? The odds are Israel is doing this to see if we could sucker more hostages out of them. And they know it. But Netanyahu's not going to give us 6 hostages. Trump doesn't want that anymore. It's too much. And Israel doesn't want it. It's going to be basically, give us all the hostages right now. And we'll give you, I don't know how many hundreds or thousands he's going to release out of the prisons. I would think it would be at least 1,200, 1,500, He really, how could he be on our side doing this? I don't know. Because it removes the deterrence from the hostages, from the terrorists. I'll go kill a Jew. If I get killed, I'm a martyr. If I don't get killed, I'll sit in prison till they get me out with an exchange. So I don't think Trump likes these exchanges. Trump did say, I'm letting Netanyahu make the choice. Whatever Netanyahu wants to do is fine with me. We'll back Israel, which is the right thing to say. Okay. So my thoughts are really, it's complicated. I'll go through it with you. They don't have Gaza doesn't have what to fight with against us very, very much of anything at all. They're probably down in their military, if you want to call it that, effectiveness by 95, 98%. What are they going to do? Do a bonsai charge and get machine gunned and artillery to death? Yeah, they could do that. So there's a lot of moving parts. Iran is practicing exercises to land troops on beaches like coming into Gaza. The Houthis fired about, right now it's probably a little more than a week ago, 2 SAM missiles, one at a Reaper MQ or MK or MQ-9 Reaper drone, and at an F-16. They missed. The rumors are coming out from decent sources that the military is leaking out that they're preparing for a big attack on Yemen where the Houthis are. And Trump's not talking about it. And why should he? He's not a moron like the rest of them. He's not a man of God, but he's a very intelligent person. He's not comfortable with war, but he knows that his credibility with threats is it's not down 50% or 80%. It's down 99%. And he knows he has to take an action. So Iran is a big action with a lot of moving parts, long drawn out, a lot of problems, a lot of implications with China and Russia and North Korea and who knows what else, or who else. And attacking Gaza is stupid. Why? It's not going to give them any credibility because there's nothing to attack. And Israel can certainly do the attacks, and America keeps feeding them weapons and support. Attack Egypt? Well, Egypt didn't really do that much right now. They violated the Camp David Accords by putting way too many troops and tanks and building bases in the Sinai Peninsula. But Trump's not going to just go attack Egypt. For that, he's going to negotiate with them, which I'm sure he's already doing. The Houthis are complete freaking lunatics. They've been attacking shipping vessels of a civilian nature, maritime vessels, grain ships, container ships, cargo ships, belonging to many, many different nations under the pretext that shipping company was allowing some of their ships to be used to bring goods in and out of Israel. So they attack every ship that shipping company like Maersk, Maersk, which is one of the biggest or the biggest in the world, attacking all their ships, even if they're not going to or fro Israel, and attacking American warships with Biden multiple times. So Biden, we don't hear from Biden, I'm happy, but Trump sees this as a reasonably decent opportunity to reinstate his deterrent value as a military power by attacking the Houthis in Yemen, who can't really damage the U.S. They could damage Saudi Arabia, but the way Saudi Arabia has been behaving, I don't think Trump cares. I think Trump would like it because it would pull Saudi Arabia back into the fold. Or the way Saudi Arabia has been going against Trump, he doesn't care. If they're going to attack Saudi Arabia, well, Saudi Arabia wants help. The other Muslim states aren't going to do it. So, I mean, the UAE may help them, but that's 5% of the problem. You know, it'll work a very tiny amount. So what is, so this is sort of the perfect storm. But like I said, many moving pieces, and we'll get into it, okay? And we'll discuss what happens with Lebanon, Iran, and Egypt. Because they all seem poised to help. I don't know what's going to happen, but I can give you some good analysis of it. Okay, I'm going to go into the live stream. Make sure we got a live stream. And sound and picture. Put a few posts up while people come in. Put a few posts up while people. We got sound and picture. Thank you for all the greetings, guys. Okay, get my posts up and we'll get going real quick, okay? The posts are very fast. I can't talk too much while I'm typing or I start getting typos. And let me get my email up and that'll be it. Not long. This could have ramifications on the world, by the way, what I'm going to describe to you. Don't think it won't. It may not be immediate, but believe me, it's going to have ramifications. It's going to start out looking like it's a very controlled thing from Trump, but let me unveil it for you. I think I'm done. Okay, being a Bible-believing site, I'm going to do some praise and we'll get into it. There is no God like Jehovah, there is no God like Jehovah, there is no God like Jehovah, there is no God like Jehovah. There is no God like Jehovah, there is no God like Jehovah, there is no God like Jehovah. There is no Messiah like Yeshua, there is no Messiah like Yeshua. 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 All right, so what's going on in Gaza? Saturday, they did a prisoner release or a hostage release of 6 Israelis. They came back in bad shape. Well, there was, I think they might have, no, I think they were all Israelis. Some were there a long time, many years. Their weight was way the heck down. Some of them were getting premature gray hair. They were giving us horror stories about what went on. I'm not going to get into those. You could use your, don't even bother using your imagination. It was rather horrible. And they made one kiss one of Hamas on the head, and they paraded him on a stage and mocked him and scared them with being surrounded with Hamas soldiers that were carrying weapons, rifles that they took off dead Israeli soldiers or captured Israeli soldiers. And they made a long, drawn-out mockery of it. Okay. And Netanyahu, we received the hostages. They get like one family member sometimes can be where they come into Israel and greet them, and then the next step is always the same: onto a helicopter to a hospital, and they run diagnostics. Now, let me tell you the dark side of this. You heard of the Stockholm Syndrome, okay? That's when hostages start to side with their captors over long periods of time. So why do we take every... Well, one of the problems is, let's say they surgically put an explosive device inside a hostage's body. He wouldn't know it. He's sick and they tell him something, or they just knock him out, put him in the operating room, put it in. He wakes up and they say, oh, we found something wrong with him. And he's not going to know what happened. And you could have an explosive device like this. You could find room in the body to put it in, I'm pretty sure. He would feel the pain, and they'd probably do this, 10, 15, 20 days before the release, and they would tell him, or even less, and they would tell him, well, it's the healing, don't worry, here's pain medicine or whatever, right? So they could detonate this with a radio signal or a cell phone signal, Don't think that we're not aware of this, okay? But we also want to find out if anything else was hidden in there or something like that. And we really, more important than that, we want to find out that they are, healthy. We don't know what's going on with them. So they probably run sonogram, x-rays. If that leads to anything, CAT scans, MRIs. They might need to run IVs for dehydration, and the IV would probably have carbohydrates in it, lots of calories, so they don't want starving people to eat a lot of food right away. The general, like when they came out of the concentration camps, the soldiers were really scared and started feeding them, like, here, have some of my, MREs and meals ready to eat. And, the doctors started screaming, no, you can't do that with starving people. You got to work them up real slow. Who knew? I wouldn't know. The soldiers didn't know. Why would they know? So they started feeding them, probably 5 or 6 times a day, very small amounts of food, plenty of liquid, So that's what goes on. Then at the hospital, they meet with the big family unit, maybe 4 or 5 people, 3 people, That's the drill. It's always the same. Then they probably, in the hospital or at home, they're going to want to take a really good long hot shower with a lot of soap, maybe lava, if you know what lava soap is. Um, Something like that, to get themselves real clean on the physical side and also the psychological side. It's very helpful if they're in a shower for 10 or 15 minutes, scrubbing themselves, cleaning under their nails and whatever, it helps get rid of, the what you went through, and it's psychological to an extent as well as physical, and it makes you feel better. And then they probably take the clothes and throw them away that they were wearing, put their regular clothes on, and it just helps project them more into the their home environment, and they could shave, put on a nice aftershave or cologne, shampoo, you know, go to the refrigerator in their house and grab something to eat, and that sort of thing. But usually they're tired. They come out, they're tired, they're stressed, they're always probably tired, and then they're weak from no nutrition, and then they go through all these doctor exams. That's going to knock you out, and if they need to, they stay in the hospital. If they're ill, they might have a fever, they might have bad skin infections, they might have parasites, they could have problems with the stomach, with diarrhea, with breathing, maybe coughing, eye infections, so they might keep them for a day or two. Generally, not in every case, but in the majority of them, they are out of the hospital in a matter of hours and they get home, And I expect they're probably pretty tired at the same time. They're real excited. So they're under stress, and, it could be that, neighbors, friends, relatives come and visit. It's a stress thing, So anyway, we held back 609 prisoners that we were releasing in exchange for 6 hostages. No excuse for Netanyahu agreeing to things like this. It's just insanity. Should be 1-to-1. But they don't value their own people being locked up in jail. They're martyrs. They'll go to heaven. 70 virgins. We don't care, So are they really upset with the 609 terrorist prisoners they want back? Yeah, because they lost face and they got swindled into this by crafty Netanyahu, and the Americans too. But the Americans were not hands-on, Netanyahu was, so their golden moment crumbled. Now that Saturday was the last of the hostages coming back in phase 1. That was the end of them. Okay. Phase 2, according to Hamas, requires Israel to completely pull out of Gaza, sign a permanent ceasefire with them, and after that, at a time of their choosing, Hamas will trickle the hostages back maybe every week, every month, whatever, to make sure Israel sticks to it. Now, what Hamas is doing, let me explain this to you, is under the terms of phase 2 that they want, which Israel never agreed to, never even negotiated it seriously, and never signed on it. They want, of course, the Rafah crossing open, so Iran would immediately start bringing missiles, missile launches, anti-tank missiles, guns, bullets, money, medical equipment for the soldiers, medical supplies, anything and everything they could bring. They'd bring it into Europe and into Egypt, and it would go in. So if they could drag phase 2 out for 2 weeks, they'd have a little bit to fight with. A month, not so little. 6 weeks, 8 weeks, they'd be ready to start raining havoc down on Israel again. So they would drag it out with the hostages until they could get enough equipment in from Egypt. I don't think they'd even bother using tunnels. I think they would just go in on covered trucks. Reconstruction equipment from Egypt, from Iran, rebuild the houses, and I think you'd be talking about hundreds and hundreds of truckloads. If you're talking 6 or 8 weeks, probably 800, 900, 1,500 trucks. They'd have a lot of stuff. There's still a few tunnels left, and they would be back in the game. They probably wouldn't have 20,000 missiles or anything like that, but they'd probably get up over 1,000, Then the hostages would stop coming back, and they'd start launching, which would break the ceasefire. You got the picture, right? So if Israel says no, there's no ceasefire, we're returning to war, thank you, we'll see you in the cemetery when you're dead. Right now, the chances of Hamas being able to do anything about that are slim and none. Really none. And that's a likely reason Egypt is there, because Egypt sees this as Israel clobbering Hamas severely. You move the civilians from one part of Gaza to another, they're searched when they walk through. If there's any thought, no weapons, of course, if there's any thought of them being Hamas, they're apprehended as a prisoner. They're not going to go. And so you move them from the north to the south or the center, and then you start incessantly bombing the Hamas locations that the soldiers on the ground would phone in. Our soldiers are ready to go in. It would take us, 20 minutes to get in, maybe with bureaucratic nonsense, 3 hours. And once we're in, we start patrolling, and we start looking for hostages. We start looking for their locations, and then we hit it with artillery or call in a bomb strike from aircraft. And we would reduce their numbers substantially every day. In addition, I'm rather sure that when we move the civilians out of the north, where most of these murderers are, we would cut the internet, the water, and the electricity. That would mean the only comms they would have is a small amount of satellite phones that they could use to communicate with each other, but it would be very limited communications, and we might be able to jam that. Okay, then what? Then they are pretty much dead. There's 20,000 of them, and the ones that we don't kill will be hiding in holes, trembling out of fear and all this other stuff, right? Then when we get them to a point where there's absolutely no effectiveness, like I would say 75 to 100% of them are either wounded or dead. Then we move them back up to the north, and then we wipe out whatever's in the south or the center. And you'd have not many civilians dead at all. And then the way the Egyptians see it is Trump would start doing his thing, getting them out of Gaza. Now, Trump knows that Egypt over the years was bringing in maybe 3, 4, 5,000 truckloads or 8 or 10,000 truckloads of tunnel making equipment and weapons, or allowing it to go in from Iran. So Trump doesn't get on the TV and talk about it, but we know that's the case. It's obvious. And you did it, now you take him in, and he starts opening up Gaza and sending them in, and Egypt doesn't know what to do. Egypt does not have a mutual defense pact with Russia or China or North Korea or Iran. If there's a war between Egypt and Israel, just them, just us two, Egypt would lose, but it would hurt Israel. It would be not like fighting Hamas or Hezbollah. They got a navy, they got an air force, and stuff like this. It would be like the wars of the 60s and 70s. It would be Israel would have an overwhelming advantage in air superiority immediately. Those Chinese Su-10 jets, I get the impression they got 1 to 3 of those, because they won't release the number. Maybe they got 4 or 5. They'd be sliced and diced in short order. And then the tank warfare would begin, but we got better tanks, faster tanks, more technologically advanced, much more superior defenses on the tanks, and they would lose their tanks from helicopters, aircraft, missiles, anti-tank missiles, tank artillery fire, mobile artillery fire ad nauseum. And then they would probably want to have a ceasefire. And then Israel could wind up taking the Sinai Peninsula, which would be, we need to take this back, we can't trust you, we signed an accord with Jimmy Carter at Camp David and you violated it. No, we're taking the Sinai Peninsula back. And the Sinai Peninsula has oil. Israel's a country now of 10 million people, and the amount of oil in the Sinai Peninsula would impact our economy in a very serious way on the way up, positive. And they don't want that. Netanyahu would tell us, oh, let's go sell the oil and go to some big company, and who knows what he's up to, corruption or who knows. But he wouldn't be able to do that. He'd have to keep the oil for Israel. So that would help our economy, and it would help our military. So what I see happening is Trump and Netanyahu are working in a coordinated fashion here. You got to understand that Hezbollah is a threat, but it's down 80%, maybe 90% now. Of course, we've been striking them during the ceasefire, so they may be down by 90%. They're highly, highly ineffective, but they still have some weapons, and they still can be dangerous with these weapons. Invading Israel, it's a joke. And a lot of Lebanon is not behind Hezbollah anymore. They're not in favor of them at all. They want to get rid of them. So they would probably rise up to the occasion if we're fighting in Gaza again, but the airstrikes that would take place all over Lebanon. See, a lot of their weapons are far from Israel, up in the north of Lebanon. Or maybe middle Lebanon, but pretty far from Israel. Remember, maybe they have a long-range missile up by Beirut or north of Beirut or something like that, okay? But the flight time is much longer than it would be from launching them from, 8 or 9 miles from Israel. You're talking maybe 75, 80 miles. So the flight time gives us much greater advantage to shoot it down while it's over Lebanon. And then the debris and the shrapnel fall. It's freezing in here. I got the heater on. It's taking time to heat it up, so I'm pulling my hands in. So it gives us a greater chance to knock it down, not in Israel territory, in Lebanon territory, which means people aren't going to get hit by shrapnel, which is from the exploding missiles and the missile itself that we take down. So that would reduce the massive amount of injuries from these missiles. So they're not a really bad problem. Yesterday, before the Nasrallah funeral and during it, and I think after it, we were hitting many targets in Lebanon where we felt there were rockets and missiles. In one instance, there was a missile launcher set up ready to go, and we blew it up. It was one. It wasn't a barrage or rows of them. It was one, and we blew it up. So we knocked off a lot of their munitions yesterday. Now, there's no coincidence here. Yes, it happened on the day of Nasrallah funeral, and that was probably timed to be the case, and we're still whittling down their weapons. Okay? So they're not very strong at all. We've been bombing them during the 2-month ceasefire. Which ended, I think, the 15th of February. We must have bombed them 30, 40 times, maybe 50 different missile and weapons installations, Hezbollah installations. So they're significantly weaker. They may be down to 5%. They definitely can lob missiles. They have some for sure. They probably have anti-tank shoulder-fired weapons, which could damage our tanks and jeeps, trucks, armored personnel carriers. They can shoot them at soldiers as well. So, but it's not very threatening. Okay, we've cut off all the supply lines for Iran to get missiles in there. Iran was bringing them into Syria and then crossing into Lebanon. And we've, for many weeks now, closed those passages. They're not getting anything. Okay? We have our soldiers almost 40 miles into Lebanon from our borders, and we now occupy the eastern side of the Golan Heights, which belong to Syria, and we have bases built up there with armor, tanks, mobile artillery, armored personnel carriers, and so forth. So we're in rather good shape to stop anything from Syria, getting too close to Israel. And we still periodically bomb new weapons and missile supply posts or bases or stashes in Syria. We've done that in the last 2 or 3 days still. So the problem from Syria is not that substantial. So Israel, as we're getting into the year of redemption, you're going to start to see Israel's getting into better and better positions. So we're telling the world and Syria, we're not leaving our positions in Syria. And we're telling Lebanon we're not leaving our positions in South Lebanon. We've got 5 bases there that are very strategic. They're on elevation. We got lookout capability. Very, very good positions. And now we have the Syrian side of the West Bank. So our strengthening tactically has increased tremendously. But what we're likely to see when the Gaza thing breaks out is the Houthis are going to start with their you know, and point their shoes at us. You know, they were pointing their shoes at the Israeli airplanes during Nasrallah's funeral that day. They were chanting death to Israel. Yeah. So, yeah, Lebanon will try to rise up in support of Hamas. Okay. Syria, I'm not expecting it. Iraq, unknown, but there's no signs that they're readying to attack Israel. Iran, plenty of signs. And the Houthis are always got their finger on the trigger. So Netanyahu didn't just turn around and say, we're attacking Gaza, guys. Give us all the hostages you got till 12 o'clock noon, high noon, or the bombs come in. Okay? He didn't do that. He's saying we need to have assurances we're getting all the hostages before we go to phase 2. Well, now phase 2 is off the table because the American Witkoff, the envoy of Trump, is on our side, and he realizes that phase 2 is sheer stupidity because Israel cannot comply with this. We got intel that they're trying to keep the hostages for years. So if they break the ceasefire in 6 or 8 weeks and they lose again, they'll say, okay, we'll give you hostages, let's do a ceasefire, right? And it continues. There's an airplane in the distance, but he's not moving that fast. We don't have any civilian flights over Israel by any airliners. They always come in over the ocean and they go right to Ben Gurion, which is close, and then there's another airport down by Eilat that they go in and go right to there. Civilian flights around Israel, I mean, are rare. They do have some puddle jumper flights from one part of Israel to another, but they're very few. Private aircraft flying over the skies of Israel doesn't really happen. Crop dusters do. So I would say probably 95% of the flights over Israel, or 98 even, are military. Very rare for civilian aircraft to fly over Israel. If you've got a private jet, which a lot of people in Israel do, and you got it in Ben Gurion, and you get in your jet and you take off, you follow the flight plan, you go out over the Mediterranean, and once you're, 25 or 50 miles out from the coast of Israel, they don't really care what you do. You want to go to Canada, you want to go to Belgium, go, we don't care, get out of here, bye, have a good time, Essentially, we're going to see America and Israel hit Gaza and Lebanon and the Houthis in close timing. And Trump, not being a moron, knows that if you send 4 or 6 jets over there, it has no deterrent value because historically America bombed them with the UK many times, and Israel did 2 large bombings in them and had no effect. So Trump's going to be more likely to get into something using somewhere between 25 and 50 planes. The aircraft carrier Truman could supply that easily. There would be ship support with launching missiles. So when these attacks on the Reaper drone and the F-16 happened, now they were probably acquiring target packages when that happened, because these were reconnaissance aircraft. I'm sure they're acquiring target packages, and they're going to attack is the word we got. And I think it makes perfect sense that they will. If Trump doesn't attack, they'll keep attacking anything American. Civilian vessels, military vessels, you know, blah, 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 blah. At this point, the most vulnerable target that the Houthis can hit is Saudi Arabia, because they have a common border, and the Saudis are not that up on their defenses. But the Saudis are siding with the Arabs, so I'm not even sure the Houthis want to hit them. Now, Saudi Arabia could be operating a fraud against Iran and the Houthis, etc., by making all kinds of nasty remarks about Trump, but he's really working closely hand in hand with Trump. In which case, the Saudis would have American air defense systems operating, with American soldiers operating it so it actually works, instead of some, you know, Saudi Arabian guy who's not fluent in American weapons. And if Saudi's really on the outs with Trump, well, which I think he is, Saudi's on their own. So the Aramco oil facility, the refinery, is the biggest one Saudi Arabia has, and it'll get damaged. It'll get rebuilt, but it'll get damaged. If it gets rebuilt, if it gets damaged enough, like, 40 missiles hit it or some crazy number like that, well, then it won't be rebuilt. I think Trump has an ulterior motive of pulling Saudi Arabia back into the fold, and the UAE getting scared because they're in BRICS, and BRICS is actively trying to destroy the US dollar, and the UAE will get scared and come over to Trump's camp. Okay. So Trump may hit the Houthis in Yemen before Israel attacks Gaza, so that could be the delay. So now they're negotiating with a phase 1 extension, which is not in the original deal, and that doesn't do the Hamas much good. They get a lot of their terrorist prisoners back, yes, but they're going to have to give up all the hostages. Doling out the hostages, I can tell you, it's not working. When Netanyahu gets all the hostages back, all his opposition are supporting him. All the demonstration and grief in Israel, we want our friends and family back, the hostages, goes away. And now the Israeli public is going to just turn to, oh, heck, blow them up. Trump's telling us to blow them up. To them, that would be like, God, spoke out of the clouds and said, blow Hamas up. I'm not saying that literally, but it's practically that bad with America and Trump. It really is. So yeah, they're going to go through with it, because they're so sure that they're invulnerable with the Donald. They're not, and Now, the scenario I told you just now is what Trump and Netanyahu think is going to happen. But let me tell you, based on Bible prophecy, what I think is going to happen. Jeremiah 49 stuff. I think that Trump's going to not annihilate Yemen, okay? But he's going to hit many locations the Houthis have. Now, they go hide in the clefts of the rocks and hide underground and everything else. So the population of the Houthi rebels, which is maybe 137,000, something like that, is going to not get heavily wiped out, but a lot of their weapons factories will. The Houthis are going to fight back. I'm not sure which way they'll fight back, but they'll fight back. The Yemen army will most likely side with the Houthis. They're close to doing it. That's another 60-something thousand. So between the regular Yemen army and the Houthis, they got 200,000. The army's not going to join in immediately, but when Trump starts blowing up ports and, oil fuel depots for the Houthis and bases they have, it's wrecking the landscape, and they're afraid of the Houthis, and they'll join the Houthis. And that is likely going to bring on the end of Edom. It's not going to be just America. It could be just America. It could be God will join in. I don't know. We're coming into the close of the year of recompenses, so time is getting short, and these things have to happen. The recompenses doesn't really apply to Israel, but let's read it and let me open you up to this, because I've touched on this, I've mentioned it, but I've never really dwelled on it like I'm going to do now. Maybe I have once, but Isaiah 34:8. For it is the day of the Lord's vengeance, and that day happens at the end of recompenses, and it's also in redemption year, so it's the end of recompenses and beginning of redemption. My take is there's an overlapping day called the day of vengeance. That's the last day of recompenses, the first day of redemption. When the appearing of the Son and the Son of Man happens in the clouds, and we get changed, and we jump out of the stall like a calf in Malachi 4, we have the everlasting life, which does not mean we have a spiritual body. It does not mean we're immortal. We'll be like the people before the flood in a way, kind of, where they were living 900 years, but we'll be living more. But all we got to do is make it into New Jerusalem, where there is no death. But because we have the tree of life and the water of life. Now, when Adam and Eve got thrown out of the garden, what the Lord said is, let's get them out of the garden before they eat of the tree of life and live, forever like us. Everlasting life doesn't mean you won't live forever. My people's days shall be like that of a tree. Well, a tree can live thousands of years, but it dies. Okay? And it says a child shall die at 100, which is real interesting, because that means when you're 100, you'll still be a child. We could sit here all day and go through that one, but we don't really know. We got to wait for that, but it is rather interesting. Okay, so, and the year of recompense is for the controversy of Zion. Now, the word for controversy is rather poorly translated, Reeve. It's more like a dispute or even a fight. It's Strong's uses adversary, contend, 35, it's a fight, an adversarial fight, because they don't want Israel to be redeemed and restored to God. They don't want Israel to get the land back. They don't want Israel to be the head of the nations. They don't want Israel to have a temple, the glory God of Israel. They don't want any of this. They want Satan to be in control, and they can keep being a curse on all the nations of the world. That's what they want. Everybody suffers except the crackpot elite. All right, so I managed to tangle myself up here. Let me untangle myself. There we go. So it's the controversy of Zion. So how could he be punishing during the year of recompense his people in Israel? Well, I've told you many times, Netanyahu is not for Israel. And many people in the government are not for Israel. High-ranking people, billionaires, millionaires, they're not. They got rich through Satan. And witchcraft, sorcery, spells, enchantments, all of that. That's where they got wealthy. Okay? So they're not for Israel. They don't want to see Israel grow and all of that. They like what they have. Okay? So that's the controversy of Zion too, is it not? They don't want God to redeem Israel. They don't want Israel to have the promises that God gave. Actually, Genesis 15 is a covenant that God, let me read it to you, because they talk about the land grant and the promise and all that, but they're deceiving you, because it's not a land grant and it's not a promise. It's in Genesis 15, 18. I thought it was 17. In the same day, Jehovah made a covenant. And the word in Hebrew is a brit. What do they call the New Testament? Brit Chadashah. Chadashah is new. Brit is a covenant. So the new covenant is Brit Chadashah. And the word Chadashah is here. It's a covenant. Does God break covenants? No. Did Israel break the covenant? No. How do we know that? I didn't know I was doing all this today, but it's coming out real good. It's the Lord. Hosea 6:1 and 2. Come and let us return unto Jehovah, for he hath torn and he will heal us. Now that's not the church, of course. He hath smitten and he will bind us up. After 2 days, remember what Peter said, 1,000 years is like a day unto the Lord. So Israel's punishment for killing the Messiah about 2,000 years ago, roughly, right, was not 48 hours or 2 days. It's 2,000 years. But it's not a precise. When he says 2 days, it's not that you take 360 days, which is the length of a biblical year, and multiply it by 2,000. It's a rough figure, you know what I'm saying? So you can't figure out exactly when it's going to happen. After 2 days or 2,000 years, I would say 2 days, but you get the idea of the 2 days. And the words there are rather, decently, it's mean from Yom. Wait a minute. You know, I need to go into the Hebrew. I'm not liking the translation here now. Yechainu, that is the Chai word, the life word. The new is us. So it's life. Okay. I mean, That's days. Let me work on this translation for a minute. I think they might be right. Okay. Mamim. After this, okay, wait. Then it says Biyom third. Okay, so that in third, what it says, the ba is in. Like babite means in the house, bite is house, buzz. If you ask somebody, hey, where's Johnny? And then somebody says, boy, habaita, it means he went to the house that belongs to him, or his house, would probably say. But, okay, so we got the third coming up. But we're going to go back to the 2 days again. I think they're right. It's old Hebrew, doesn't seem to match New Hebrew. So I'm going to dig into something here real quick. And I mean quick, but I'm going to go to Kyle and Delich and see how they do the translation here. This is old Hebrew. I don't believe that people speak like this anymore. I think it's right, because it's Yom Yom. Carl and Dalitz say their commentary is worthless. They don't know anything about Bible prophecy, but their translation is rather good. He will, not perfect, but it's better than the King James anyway, by a lot. He will quicken us. That's the Kayanu, Us is the new. So, and then it says 2 days, and then it goes to the third day. Okay, so yeah, they got it right. I think they got it right. All right, I just try to be so careful with the translations because I made a bad mistake once where the shanat and the shana words. So when I see something, so what it's really saying here is it has yom yom. The word for day is yom. Yem, well, it's not the same word, but that's because they're running it together, I suppose. So it's really saying from day, 2 days. Or maybe 4 2 days, you could say. So what it's again saying, the first word is kaya, which is the life. It's talking about the everlasting life here. It's what it's doing. But the people that write these things don't even know that. It's some translators write it as revive or bring to life, or it could be even fulfilling a promise in this order, in this area. Preserve, quicken, recover, repair, restore. It's Strong's has a good idea of it, but he doesn't understand prophecy. so it's saying bring to life 2 days. So let's go back to King James, which isn't that far off, really. See, they have it backwards because they're trying to put Hebrew into English, which is very hard to do because it's very choppy compared to when you try to put it in English. So it's saying after 2 days, which is the double Yom day, or I would say from 2 days. Bring us to life. They say revive us. It's really not so bad. Then it's saying the 3rd day, which isn't so bad. And then in the 3rd day, he's saying raise us up, which is trying to make people think it's the rapture. It's not. It's not a rapture word. It's kum, which can mean stand or ride. I'll tell you what Strong's interprets this as, because the other ones are much worse than Strong's. Strong's first choice is abide, and I think I agree with him there. So it's abide, the 3rd day abide, and then it says, they say, and we shall live 4 words, for 1 word in Hebrew, which is kayat, which can mean live or have life. But then it says in his sight, and that is, they don't know how to put it in English. It's means face. The word means face. So you're saying live in front of his face. That's because Yeshua is enthroned inside New Jerusalem next to the glory God of Israel, which is probably Michael, and that's the angel in Exodus 23 that God put his name Jehovah in. The glory of God of Israel, the most powerful angel. So the 2 of them are sitting there. So, it all makes sense. Okay, so I digressed, but I hope you appreciated that little discourse. And for 2,000 years, we're being punished. Okay? So when you're talking about the recompenses, you got to remember God blinded our eyes and stopped up our ears. Not the elect, not those that are in Yeshua, but the others. But before you're in Yeshua, as an Israelite, which I am, I'm from Levite and also a descendant of Aaron, so that makes me a priest or a Kohanim, or a Kohen in the Hebrew in the singular. So Kohanim is priests with an S. Okay, so the recompenses over the controversy of Zion would not apply to you believers because you're not opposing it, okay? It applies to anybody that opposes it, which are the Satan bots living in Israel, and the evil ones, and the bad ones. And why am I constantly getting hooked? They're the ones. So there's going to be a payback on them, and you read that in Malachi 4, ashes under your feet, they get burned up. You read it in Zechariah 9, you read it in Zechariah 13, verses 8 and 9. 2/3 get burned up, and the others get raised up. And that hasn't happened yet. Let me read it to you, because these false teachers and preachers try to deceive you so much. Zechariah 13:8, and it shall come to pass that in all the land, Kol Haaretz, the land of Israel. Now that can mean the land we have now, or the land that's destined to come to us, which would, it's probably, because we see so many get burned up, around us in Zechariah 12. It's hard to see what it exactly means, which one. But, you know, maybe because he gives us the land, I didn't finish doing that with you, but in Genesis 15 from the Euphrates to the Nile. But anyway, that's about 100 times bigger than what we got now, coming very soon. In all the land, Kol Haaretz, Yehovah, 2 parts, that's 2/3 in English, I guess. It's reasonably decent translation. But it should say 2/3, not parts, but therein shall be cut off and die. Well, that plainly means they're dead, which is the ashes under your feet in Malachi 4. But the third, and that's good translation, shall be left therein. And I will bring the third part through the fire, and will refine them as silver is refined, and will try them as gold is tried. They shall call on my name, and I will hear them. I will say, it is my people, and they shall say, Yehovah Elohim. Now, where do you see this? You see it in Malachi 3. I'm not going to read the whole thing. Up at the top, you see it. Talks about Elijah coming, and then in verse 2 it says, who may abide the day of, read 1, 2. Behold, I will send my Malach, that's a messenger, and he shall prepare the way before me. Well, that's what Elijah does. Now you're getting the Elijah now, you're not getting somebody with the spirit of Elijah. You're getting one of God's sons, okay? Oh boy, I'm getting into it. Some of you can say, what are you talking about, Moshe? God's sons? You're crazy, you're an apostate. Yeshua is the only son. Well, if he was the only son, why would God call him the firstborn son? And when he talks about he's the only son that was born of the Holy Spirit and a woman, that's where people go off with that. I believe we're in Job chapter 1 verse 6, where I want to be anyway. I may have to look it up, but I think it's 1:6. Yes. Now there was a day when the sons, and that word is plural, of Elohim, sons of God, came to present themselves before Yehovah, and Satan came also among them. Read it. Job 1:6. I want to check in the Hebrew for a minute. I did this in the past. I just want to refresh my memory. I don't think there's anything unusual, but I like to check. Give me a minute. Yeah, it's sons. Ben is the singular, it's B'nai, it's sons. Okay, now you see this in another place too. As long as I'm doing this, I'll do it right? In Zechariah 4, where we're told about the candlesticks and the olive trees. The last verse says, well, I'll do Zechariah 4:12. And I answered again and said unto him, what be these two olive branches which through the two golden pipes empty the golden oil out of themselves? So the olive tree, olive branch is bringing the oil, the clarified oil, which is the olive oil, which is the anointing oil, to the candlesticks, the seven candlesticks, which we know from Revelation represents the body of believers, okay? The congregations, we would say, right? Or they call them churches. That's incorrect. The congregations would be more accurate. Or the anointed ones that are called out, okay? Or the elect that are called out. So when I answered again, okay, so now we go into Zechariah 4:13, and he answered. So what it means is the two witnesses, which is Elijah and Apostle John, because Revelation 11 says the two witnesses are the candlesticks and the olive trees. So we know who that is. The church, the synagogue people don't know because they don't read Revelation. And he answered me and said, knowest thou not what these be? And I said, no, my Lord. So they're bringing the olive oils, the anointing. So they're bringing the anointing into the body of believers. Has Elijah been doing this all along? I don't know. I can't answer. Then said he, these are the two. I don't know. I don't think that's the meaning. I think it was a prophetic vision. And I think that the olive trees are the future. That the candlesticks is for the future, although Yeshua was talking about the candlesticks in the far past. So, you got me. Is it possible that Apostle John was there when Yeshua was? There's no doubt about that. And he's still here. Yeshua said to the disciples, he said, there be some standing here today among you that shall not taste of death until they see the kingdom of God. Well, it doesn't say some. When you look at the real meaning of the word, it's someone. It's one person. That's Apostle John. And he was told in Revelation, you must prophesy again to many people, tongues, nations. Okay. He's still here. So he probably got everlasting life. Or God just extended his life. I don't know what happened. Everlasting life, you'll be jumping out of the stall like a baby calf, so you'll be young again. What's my guess from a vision I had? I'm telling you, it's a vision. Could have been a dream. I can't remember exactly. One of the two. 22, 21, 23, 24, maybe 25, maybe 19. Was that someplace in there? I would say 21 to 23. Guessing. See, it says the two golden pipes empty the oil out of themselves, out of it. So they're transferring the anointing. So it could mean they're going to lay hands on people and give them one heck of an anointing. Woo! Okay. Then said he, these are the two anointed ones. Now, it says, not exactly that. It says these, it should say Eze. Yeah, we'll go with these. Okay, so um, when I said essay, I'm using modern Hebrew, not biblical Hebrew. Um, so it's saying Shnaim sons Yitzhar. So what he's saying is these are the two sons. Yitzhar is clarified oil, the olive oil, stuff that's coming out of the olive trees into the candlesticks. So it means anointed. So they're the two sons anointed. These are two sons. S-O-N-S in English, sons anointed that stand by the Lord Adonai of the whole land or earth. So what you're dealing with here is Job 1:6. These are also sons of God. God doesn't send people to earth with great power. You're not going to absorb this very readily unless there's his sons. He doesn't just do it. Doesn't get, where does that leave Moses? It leaves Moses up there in Job 1:6 when Satan appeared with the sons of God. That's where it leaves Moses. Why was there such a big fight over his bones, his body? Why was he given such great power? It was an afterthought to bring Aaron in. Yeshua, son. There's others, but I have an idea who they are, but I can't prove them to you. I believe there's 7. I would put Melchizedek in that category. But let's go on. I can't give you the scriptures and prove it very easily. I could argue it with you and show you the reason for it, but I'm not here to do that today. It's not going to do you much good because you're always going to doubt, does he really know does he really know what he's talking about? And I don't blame you because there's not all that scriptures. Okay, so back to Genesis 15, 18, verse 18. In the same day, Jehovah made a covenant, a brit with Abraham, saying, unto thy seed. So Abraham wasn't going to get all this land. But remember what the scripture said, the promises were not made to seeds of many, but seed of one, and that one is Yeshua. But when you're in Yeshua, you're his brethren. In Yeshua, what he has, you have. So that's how that works, okay? You're in the seed, you're basically the seed, okay? The tares in the wheat get planted. The wheat is the seed, it gets planted, right? Okay, you got it? All right. Unto thy seed have I given this land, Eretz, from the river of Egypt, that would be the Nile, unto the great river, the river Euphrates. Okay? This is unfulfilled, and it's going to be fulfilled. Boy, we cut some wood today, didn't we? So, I don't think the recompense is going to apply to you as believers. Right, now, I want to go to, it's either Zechariah 1 or 2 and show you something there. I wish I could remember which chapter it's in. I'll just have to scan it and get it. I got it. It's in 1, Zechariah 1. This is in Zechariah 1, verse 12, and it says, "Then the angel." Does it say the angel? It says Malach, the messenger. Could be an angel. Could be somebody else. Then the Malach of Jehovah answered and said, "O Jehovah of armies, how long wilt thou not have mercy on Jerusalem and on the children of Judah, the cities of Judah?" Well, that's the land we have now. After redemption, we're going to be called Israel because the Israelites will be here, the 10 tribes. The lost tribes are not here now. We don't have all the land now. So we're Judah and Jerusalem. So it's for these days, or in the past, those days too, would have applied. Okay. Have mercy on Jerusalem and on the cities of Judah, against which thou hast had anger, indignation, these 70 years. That's the 70 years that would be referencing the Babylonian captivity. And in verse 13, Zechariah 1, "And Jehovah answered the Malach, the messenger, that talked with me with good words and comfortable words." So the Malach that communed with me said unto me, it could be an angel, it could also be a messenger, "Cry thou, saying, Thus saith Jehovah of armies." See, now a messenger saying, cry, saying this sounds more like an angel, right? It does. "Thus saith Jehovah of armies, I am jealous." What's that word? 7065. Jealous isn't that bad of a word choice at all. Zealous is with a Z. Could also mean it. He wants Israel. The concept is he wants the Israelites back with him. "I am jealous for Jerusalem and for Zion with a great jealousy." Zion means the dry, parched land, Sion. "And I am very sore displeased." Well, it really doesn't say that. Let me see if I could get a better translation real quick. Give me a second. I can translate it, but it comes out choppy, obtuse for English. Let me see if somebody did a better job. What is it really saying here? it's not doing it. Okay, it's hard to put it in English. It's easy to know what it means. It says in the King James, I am very sore displeased. Okay, that's not really the correct meaning. What they say for displeased, katsaf, see, they're downgrading it. It means burst out in rage. Burst out in rage from Strong's. So I am burst out in rage. The word katsaf is 2 times used. So it means he's super angry, enraged. He's enraged with the goyim that are at ease. And the word for ease is shanan. It's downgraded, haughty, that, like walking around like Trump, head held up high. Nothing's going to bother me. I'm with Satan, Got a bunch of people mad just now, didn't I? Oh well. But a little okay. For I was but a little displeased. Okay? So he was a little at rage with Israel, but the word for little is me'at. So if you had to move 25 bricks on a hot day and you were sweating, people would say me'at, me'at, which means little by little. It means little. There's another word, that katan, but that more means small, not little. Me'at is little. It's subtle difference, a little enraged, and they, the heathen, they helped Atzar. Doesn't really mean that. It means to surround or protect. So the heathen helped. That's not so bad. Help forward the affliction. Well, they got 3 words for one. And affliction seems to be a very soft word. They've softened this on purpose, it looks like. Affliction is too weak for this. It's an off translation. It means evil. They protected the evil. In other words, they protected the evil. So what is that an example of? All the nations standing up for Hamas? Is that obvious enough? Now what happens? Therefore, thus saith Jehovah, I am returned to Jerusalem with mercies. Now, The glory of God of Israel is the one that goes in the temple. In Malachi 3, it says we'll have the temple again. And in Malachi 3, it also says he will go into his temple suddenly, so he'll come unexpectedly. And this is the angel that the Lord put his name in is Exodus 23, verse 20, which is Jehovah, so he can be called Jehovah. Churches never teach this. If God puts his name in this angel, Jehovah, he can receive the offerings for Jehovah. Why wouldn't he be able to be called Jehovah if Jehovah put his name in? So they don't teach this, so people say, oh, this guy's crazy. Yeah. But this guy uses the scripture. Why doesn't your pastor teach you Isaiah 34:8? With the year of recompense is the day of vengeance. Why doesn't he teach you Isaiah 61, the first 4 verses, the acceptable year of the Lord, which also has the day of vengeance? And why doesn't he teach you Isaiah 63, verse 3 or 4? The day of vengeance is associated with the year of redemption. Why doesn't he teach you that? What are you coming down on me for? Come down on him. Some of the most important scriptures in the Bible for these days are not being taught, and you want to do a tap dance on me? Get your head straight for your own eternal salvation. Therefore, thus saith Jehovah, I am returned to Jerusalem, that's the temple, and him in the temple, with mercies. My house shall be built in it. Well, the house is the word bite, and that's the temple, because the glory of God lives in it. Michael is him, the angel, because it's called the house made without hands in another place in the Bible. Without human hands, you would say. Now the word for shall be built, 11:29, Benah, is not really correct. Conveniently for them. It can mean set, like place or make. Okay. In Ezekiel 37, he places the next temple. The last 3 verses, Ezekiel 37. He places the temple in the midst of us, which is Jerusalem's the middle of us. So they say build it like the rabbis are going to build it. See, these twistings are done on purpose. Saith Jehovah of armies, and a line will be stretched forth upon Jerusalem. Cry yet, saying, thus saith Jehovah of armies, my cities through prosperity shall yet be spread abroad. So the spread abroad is, they twisting this, it's putz. That's a curse word in Yiddish, but in Hebrew it means dispersed. It doesn't mean abroad. There's no word in there that means abroad. They're twisting it. And Jehovah, they're using 3 words for one. It's like the Living Bible. It's just, they're telling stories in the translation. All the English ones are that way. They're all based on the King James, which is based on the Wycliffe and the, basically the Wycliffe, back in the 1300s. You know. Be spread abroad, be scattered. And Jehovah shall yet comfort Zion, and shall yet choose Jerusalem. Then lifted I up my eyes and saw, and behold, they don't have to teach this, 4 horns. And I said unto the angel that talked with me, what are these? And he answered me, these are the horns which have scattered Judah and Israel. So this would go back when there was an Israel living in the land of Israel, okay, and Judah, when there was the 2 tribes and the 10 tribes. And it's so it says scattered Judah, Israel, and Jerusalem. So it's not just for now, it goes back through time, and that's why you see Jeremiah 30:11 says he will destroy all the nations that he scattered the Israelites into because of the way they were treated. That's about 125 nations. And if you read Jeremiah 30, you realize it's associated with the birth pangs and the birth of the nation in a day, which was not 1948. Okay? How could you believe that? The nation was restored to God. There were birth pangs, they were fearful, they were clutching their guts. They were sitting in coffee shops in Israel, smoking cigarettes and drinking coffee and espresso and having cake and cookies and listening to the UN decision on the radio. There was no TV. Saying, these are the horns. What does an animal fight with? His horns. He doesn't pull a gun out. Does a bull bow down and scratch his paw, put his head down, and then put a gun in his mouth and shoot it with his tongue or something? He uses his horns. The horns which have scattered Judah, so that no man did lift up his head. So now he's talking about Judah. Now he's talking about the modern days. Wait a minute, I got ahead of myself. Okay, hold on. In Zechariah 1:18, and behold, 4 horns, and I said to the Malach that talked with me, what be these? And he answered, this probably really is an angel. And he answered me, these are the horns which have scattered Judah, Israel, and Jerusalem. And Jehovah showed me 4 carpenters. That's stupid translation, workmen. This is not a very easy scripture to deal with at all. Then said I, what come these to do? And he spake, saying, these are the horns which have scattered Judah, so that no man did lift up his head. But these are, okay, so this, because he's saying Judah, this is the 1948 forward, I believe, of the horns that scattered Judah. We could sit here for hours debating who they are. I would just be guessing. You could guess too. But these, okay, but these are come. But these are come to fray, they downplayed it, it means terrify. To terrify them, to cast out the horns of the Goyim, of the heathen, which lifted up their horn over the land of Judah to scatter it. It's hard to name who they are and who the 4 workmen are. If I was going to guess, and I'm just guessing, Apostle John, Elijah, maybe the anointed prince that's in the temple. Read Ezekiel 45, maybe, I don't know. It'd be hard to say the glory of God of Israel is one because he's an angel, so I don't know. There's things I don't know. Pray that we get an answer for these things. Best advice I have, I don't know. But I know we pray for a lot of things and we get answers, good answers. So speaking of prayer, let me interject with some prayer requests here. The first one's a little bit complicated because it's three sets of initials. EV Echo Victor, EV Echo Victor, EL Echo Lima, EL Echo Lima, EL, and AP Alpha Papa, AP Alpha Papa, AP. So EV, EL, and AP. The prayer is they maintain their lifestyle and living conditions improve. They maintain their lifestyle and living conditions improve for EV, EL, and AP. Next, for PM, Papa Mike, PM, Papa Mike, PM. Healed from addiction and to know the Lord. So PM would be healed from addictions and know the Lord. Next. RG, Romeo Gold. RG, Romeo Gold. RG. Healing for headaches for RG. The next is for a boy. I only have one initial, H as in hotel. So it's just a young boy with the initial H like hotel. Healing for pneumonia. It's serious. This young person, H, is in a hospital for pneumonia. And the prayer is for healing. Okay, we got those done. That's it for the prayer request. So we could be at the point where Trump and his allies, which will be other countries, to raise up other countries to clobber the Houthis in Yemen isn't going to be hard because of what they did to shipping. But minimally, it would be Israel, America, and the UK. And that would work because it says enemies, plural, in Jeremiah 49. Oh, that's regarding Iran, sorry. No, regarding Yemen, Edom, it could be, I don't know, it could come either way. God could do it, we could do it, both. They just sent me a weather warning near my condition, severe weather, and they mentioned ice. So our temperature, let me check, are we getting a freeze? 51 degrees, you ain't getting no ice. It says severe snow or ice warning. These conditions are expected by 8 p.m. We're already partly sunny. I don't think it's going to hit my area. Let me check one other weather station. If it's ice, the idea is stay far away from the streets because these people are very inexperienced in driving in snow and ice. You like climb up a tree. No, nothing. I don't think it'll affect my area. Okay, it'll affect my area where there's altitude. Near me is the Golan Heights, which is not that close. It's quite a drive. It's high up, and I don't know why they said that. Mount Tabor is not that far away from me, but again, it would take a long drive, really. And that's got altitude, so I think it just applies to those at altitude. But anyway, I wouldn't want to be out on the street with. I was years ago living right outside of Jerusalem, maybe 3 miles or something, and we had waist deep snow. And the Israelis were almost waist deep. It was very deep, and the Israelis were just leaving their cars in the street. They didn't know how to drive home. They just shut the motor off, locked them, and walked away. I never forgot that. It was quite an event. Okie dokie. So it could be, maybe that the thing with the Houthis start, and Iran has nothing left with the Syria as a proxy, has nothing left in Lebanon, has nothing left in Gaza. So Israel's already occupying parts of Syria, occupying parts of Lebanon, and it looks like we may very well be occupying Gaza. The Bible says we will, maybe before redemption. And the nations are getting very scared. The Arab Muslim nations around us are getting very nervous. And the Houthis still have some bite, not much, but something. So you knock out the Houthis, and Iran knows they're next. So they may come and try to attack. Well, who are they going to attack? Well, whoever they can, American military bases, Israel. So it could start with the destruction of the Houthis, and then Elam gets it, and Elam is either southwestern Iran, which would mean Iran would be in the war and get destroyed, or it could be, some historians believe it includes pieces of Iraq and Syria. So that could be the big cleanup. And that says enemies plural. But again, UK, America, and Israel are enemies plural, right? We don't need more. We might have more, but we don't need more. So maybe Iran starts first before we wipe out the Houthis. I don't know how it's going to play. But it's coming. It's in Scripture. Turkey and Saudi Arabia and Jordan have yet to act up. Join in with Egypt. I think those two jerks get along reasonably well. They got a common cause to destroy Israel. The guy running Jordan is a very wealthy billionaire king who got the country from his father, and he's a complete loser, an idiot. But he's probably a lot happier. He is a word I use extremely loosely, if you get my drift. This king would rather sit around in his palaces and act like a big shot and enjoy the life of a billionaire dictator than start up with Israel and possibly get killed and have his country ruined. Even if he won, which wouldn't happen, his country would be rather destroyed. So he doesn't care. It's more important to be a billionaire and enjoy life to him. The heads of state and the heads of the Muslims are not really Muslims. They're Satan bots. Come on, you know that. All right, let's see what else I didn't cover. One of these internet gold guys, this self-proclaimed guy, is telling us that when they do the audit on the Fed, if gold is found in sufficient quantities, that they may get revalued up, not at $2,500 like I worked it out, but at $5,000 an ounce. He has his reasons. That would put things at $1.3 trillion, which is a lot of money to back his Bitcoin, Trump coin, or whatever. It'll get get transferred to the U.S., it'll be through the U.S., not him. And that's accounted to BRICS because BRICS is sort of securing their brick dollar with, you know, things like natural gas and gold and other products that our nations are pledging. They're going to keep them in their own vaults, but they're going to pledge them as collateral to get BRICS dollars. And that's sort of what Trump's going to do to fight BRICS. And Trump will probably win the fight unless he gets America destroyed first. So America has $36 trillion in debt now. Okay? Only about 5 trillion of this belongs to the Federal Reserve Bank. So if he gets rid of the Federal Reserve Bank, there's still other debt, like Japan and other countries hold debt, bonds, and stuff like that. So if Trump gets gold like $4,000 or $5,000, the dollar is going to get so strong he could be able to pay the debt back, which is in old dollars, at maybe as low as 20%. The other countries are not going to like that, but like it or not, but Trump could pull it off and get the debt way down, and the dollar would keep going up more and more. Gold back, not much debt. My gosh, it would go up like a rocket. If the Fort Knox is empty, gold's going to probably go up in value. If the Fort Knox is full of the gold and they're going to revalue the gold, the chances are it's going to go up. And so you can't really lose with gold. I mean, I don't see a scenario where it's going to go down. Social Security, there's a bunch of goofballs running around on the internet saying they're going to increase Social Security by $5,000 a month. I can't substantiate that anywhere. It appears that very recently the Social Security website posted a story or an article or a statement that there is going to be a $2,000 check given to Social Security recipients as a stimulus package. So that appears to be real unless the guy was lying. Give me a break, I'll be right back. A minute break or so. I'm going to look for further verification of that $2,000 Social Security. I picked it up just before I went on the air. But when the guy says he got it off the Social Security website and he's an established channel, I think he needs it, but I'm waiting to hear more confirmation, so don't take that as the gospel, but it looks real. We'll see. And it's supposed to be in a short period of time. So your Social Security deposit will just go up by $2,000. It's a one-timer. The other thing I want to tell you is this. I don't know how Hamas is going to start a war with Israel. Shoot a couple of random rockets at us, that breaks the ceasefire clearly, and we just start the bombing. That may very well happen because they're psychotics. Now, I mean that. Now, it also can go a different way. Something could happen. We're not giving you any hostages back till you leave, and then we want the hostages. Netanyahu says, "Oh, she's talking to a delivery driver, I think. We want the hostages. You don't give us the hostages, we'll blow you up. We'll bomb you." Egypt knows this. Listen to me. We start bombing the Gazans, Trump's going to get on the horn and say, "You stinking rotten Egyptians, your Muslims, your fellow Muslims are living in tents. They don't have water, they don't have this, they don't have that. Hamas is saying they're starving. They're not, but and you're subjecting to them this, and you don't even want to put them in the Sinai Peninsula. We have plenty of land. What kind of people are you? I'm moving them into Egypt now, you bums." Think Trump wouldn't do that? That's why they've got 100,000 soldiers in Sinai and by the border with Gaza. Because the best remedy for them is to move into Gaza to try to stop Israel so they don't have to take the Palestinians in. Because under those conditions, they'd be looking at 2 million who would hook up with the Muslim Brotherhood and overthrow Sisi. So Egypt is about to pit itself against Israel and America. America is responsible for enforcing the Camp David Accords that's in the treaty, and Egypt is breaking it by a massive amount right now. They're building military bases in Sinai, airstrips, military airstrips. They're completely out of control. So don't think that Trump won't do this. And don't think we're far away from Zechariah 12, because we're not. Now we know America's going to have troops running around in Israel in Jeremiah 50:51, or it seems so pretty clear. I lean in that direction anyway. I think it is. Could be wrong, but I think so. So please pray. And that you might want to subscribe, because I don't know if you know it, but the world's about ready to change very quickly. But you could be watching the Ukraine-Russia war, and you could watch the football games, or I think the football games are over, aren't they? Super Bowl was over. I guess it's over. Basketball, maybe, whatever you're watching. Oh, they should start having the unofficial baseball games anytime soon now. I don't know what they call them, exhibitions, before they actually start the real countdown. So you might want to subscribe and keep following me on Telegram. Of course, that gets all the updates. Jet up in the air. Okay, so I'm Moshe. Please pray for me and my wife Rivka for our peace, safety, protection, joy, healing. Pray for our finances. Pray for us to be relaxed and calm. Big war's about to pop off, okay? Big. It'll start regional, but it won't stay there. You watch. Jeremiah 30:11 is also Jeremiah 46, verse 28. It's in two places. All the nations he scattered the Israelites into are going to be destroyed. Not all the people, the countries, because they were built up with Satan. And pray for our animals and pets, which are all rescues to get through the cold weather, especially the birds. That's important. Please do that. And they be happy, healthy, and whole. Pray for better videos. Pray the questions we can't answer, the Lord answers. He knows everything. And pray for peace of Jerusalem. And don't be afraid to ask for prayer requests. That's usually pride. Oh, I don't need it. I do. Ask if you got something going on you want prayer for. Send me the initials of the person you want prayer for. 2 initials. Could be yourself. The Lord will know who they are. And it keeps you private so that S-bots that listen don't sit there. Curse this one, Satan. Curse him. You know. Because that's all they're about. Their father was a murderer from the beginning and the father of lies. And that's what they are. And, you know, mail it in. You got my email address. Last line down in the description box. Israel Giving with the number 7 at gmail.com. Israel Giving, one word, with the digit 7 at gmail.com. And I'll put the prayer request out. It's free. Why not? Don't be afraid. You have pretty decent privacy, you know. And I send my shalom to all those who love Yeshua HaMashiach, and maybe send a little prayer in for warmer weather in my isolated area. Okie dokie. So, heads up, guys. Heads up. Seatbelts on. Crash helmets. It's coming. I'm out.